Phasmophobia's Tempest update has come out today, and with it, a lot of good changes, but some questionable as well. Firstly, the 2022 Christmas event is now live, where you collect 6 cookies on each of the marked maps and feed them to the ghost to turn them into Santa Claus. Unlike the last event, you do not have to play on Nightmare to have the event work, instead you only have to play on Intermediate. I'll be making a video with all the cookie locations and then a follow-up for each map, showing the route to collect them all. Secondly, there's 2 new weather options with fog and sunrise. Don't tell the developers that sunrise is a time and not a weather. Additionally, they've changed all weather to be better, especially heavy rain. Furthermore, the developers have seemingly targeted me and my guide videos by changing multiple things about the ghost that I've complained about, and some things that I liked, sadly. Firstly is the Goryo has yet again been fixed. Now it won't be able to change its favorite room or roam long distances. Secondly, the Hantu, whose breath I said was basically impossible to see, will now produce its cold breath during hunts in every room as long as the breaker's off, making them a ghost that's even easier to catch. Third, Yurei, whose ability is nearly useless, will no longer be able to use their ability while not near doors. I wish they had simply made it so the ability's range was massive, so it would be super obvious like the Poltergeist's ability, but that's just me. This makes the guide video about the Yurei slightly incorrect to the point that annoys me enough to have to replace it. Additionally, now, Wraith can no longer step in salt at all, meaning that the old way of taking a photo of salt no longer tells you if it's a Wraith or not. Now you're going to have to use motion sensors and a line of salt to see if the ghost steps through it. This makes detecting a Wraith even more annoying, and is just a negative change in my opinion. And now for the last of the ghosts that I've done videos on, the Obake, whose video released yesterday, can now rarely flicker to a different ghost model during hunts. This gives another way to identify Obake from my fellow risk takers. Then there's the Revenant, that I'd recorded in everything, but now they'll no longer slow down when line of sight is lost. Instead, they'll slow down when they reach the player's last known location, and then will gradually slow down. This returns Revenant to the spot of being a super dangerous ghost to play against, and it's very exciting to see a ghost actually be threatening again. Now it's time for the more controversial changes, and I'll start with a heavy hitter. They're changing custom difficulty rewards, and now they'll be reduced by 80%, meaning that you'll only get 20% of the rewards that you'd get previously. This is an absolutely awful change, plain and simple. But to understand why this change is bad, let's try and understand their reasoning as to why they've made these changes. First, they say that they want custom difficulty to be fun and interesting without worrying about how much you can get out of it. But unfortunately, reducing the rewards so drastically is making it so people will be vehemently against playing these modes in multiplayer, which will make it even less utilized and relegate it all to single player instead. Additionally, the changes you can make in custom difficulty doesn't change the game the way custom game modes in other games do. Custom difficulty is instead focused on difficulty. The changes you make in custom difficulty doesn't change the fundamentals of how the game works, but instead change the rules. I guess the best analogy for this is you're basically playing Uno with house rules. If they really want to make custom difficulty into more of a custom games way of working, then they'll have to make it a much more robust system. They'll have to integrate something like choosing which ghost you'll be playing against, maybe even which room it'll favor so you can relive the Revenant in high school gym. Then they'd have to make tweaks to everything like tarot cards and chances of getting certain cards. Imagine having an actual tarot roulette where you have 1 hanged man and 6 fools. Sadly, though, the developers probably won't add this robust customization that would justify custom difficulty games being relegated to just for fun. I say this as someone who grew up playing Halo. Custom games can genuinely expand the time you'll play a game exponentially. This is made even sadder by the fact that the developers see all modding as the same as hacking. I once played with a guy who had a mod to play as a ghost against us, something that is a constant request in the comments on YouTube videos and so on, and would make a fantastic game mode in Phasmophobia. But now we either wait for the developers to reassess their priorities in making the single game, or shift to making a game that can be played many ways, because that modder now faces getting banned ever since the very poorly implemented report system was added. The next point I'd like to address is that statistically most players still play intermediate and professional, which is most certainly true. But from a reasoning standpoint, this is just irrelevant to the conversation and a distraction. It doesn't matter what most players play most of the time, because you're basically taking away something that they could also do in the game. Their next point is that having set rewards per custom option makes it hard to change the base difficulties, which is true. The custom difficulty settings were already not in parity to the regular difficulties, though I wouldn't describe this as a problem with the game, but rather a symptom of having such a complicated difficulty system. Would it be nice for it to be one-to-one? Sure. But is it necessary? No. Is the solution to it just trying to make one option irrelevant? No. Finally, their last points relate to balance. Custom difficulty was easy to cheese in order to make games that were significantly faster and had much higher reward than normal. This is true. They also state that with Progression 2.0 coming soon, they wanted all players to be on a level playing field when it comes to getting money and experience. My response to this is that fundamentally Phasmophobia is a casual game. There's no competitive side to it. There's a large amount of random unknowns that you cannot control that determines whether you get a 5-minute or a 30-minute game. Why should it matter how a player earned their money or levels? There's already people that can just edit their level and money anyways. Additionally, the biggest factor in whether a game is successful or not is ultimately the skill of a player. I am skilled enough to get perfect or close to perfect games on Nightmare within 10 minutes consistently. This takes a lot of knowledge and time playing the game to achieve. I can do this solo, and in fact oftentimes playing with others slows me down, as I get misled or have others take equipment away from me. Despite this, I took a liking to a custom difficulty that removed running but kept movement speed, made me start with no sanity, forcing me to take pills to only have 100 sanity to play with the rest of the game. And most importantly, I made the ghost run faster and act more. Oftentimes, playing this setting would be slower than me rushing around a Nightmare, but I'd make a reasonable bit more money on it, so I felt justified. Maybe the total amount per hour was slightly faster or slower, but hey, it was more interesting, which is what mattered. Now I'll just go back to playing Nightmare, because if I die on custom settings, I have much more to lose than I'll ever gain. Despite this, when Progression 2.0 comes around, I'll still be faster than most at getting high level, simply because I'm a better player. I'll have more money because I can play with less equipment than them, I can play faster than them, I can play better than them. The game is already not fair to those who don't have the skill, and taking away a chance to grind fast for some money to help pay for items in multiplayer just because the developers think that a player level, a number that is fundamentally worthless as anyone can just grind for it regardless of all these changes to custom difficulty, is laughable. Now, they say they'll add something for challenge seekers next update, but regardless of what they add, it won't justify taking player choice away. Now, if they're going to stick by their guns regardless, I'd at least like some consolation in the form of maybe a rotating difficulty every day that'll be allowed to have the full value of custom difficulty, or just anything better than this. Maybe even give us a bonus for playing on a random difficulty. Stuff that at least make the current system somewhat interesting to play. Additionally, they're now trying to make players focus more on getting the ghost over the secondary objectives by making it so that getting the correct ghost will now double the money and experience from primary and secondary objectives. But they've also nerfed the secondary objectives payout. So effectively, instead of rewarding players for getting the ghost right, they're punishing players for getting the ghost wrong. Furthermore, if you get all objectives, bone, and fill the journal with 3-star photos, you'll get a perfect bonus, which is only slightly more and is supposed to be on top of the investigation bonus, but so far I've only seen one or the other. I'm not sure if this is a bug or not, but it really doesn't matter. I think these changes are interesting, and if they didn't nerf secondary objectives and actually had meaningful multiplier addition with the bonuses, that there'd actually be an okay system here. But the way it is now just seems really bad, since you're going to ultimately only get like $10 extra for a perfect game than you used to, and you get punished for not having the right ghost. Anyhow, that's the Tempest update. If you want, please leave your opinions in the comments below. Though for now, I'm pretty tired, so I'll see y'all soon. Peace.